Welcome to Sisters in Loss TV. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. And October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, a month dedicated to honoring and remembering our babies who have gone to heaven far too soon. I'm excited to present to you a series on surviving pregnancy loss. I know many of the stories you may hear may be triggering, so press pause, take a break, and come back to hear these powerful stories from sisters in loss who have survived pregnancy loss. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Surviving Pregnancy Loss series. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee, and today I am so excited to introduce to you all my guest, Shanicka House. So I would love for you, Shanicka, to share with our listeners and our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, like she said, I'm Shanicka House, and I am the CEO of My Transparent Moments. And what that is it's a couple of different things. It's a platforms where I share my motherhood journey with moms from all different walks of life, openly and transparently sharing my journey and also the revelations that I get. So that's where we get moment. I highlight the mom in moments, and I say that's where real meets revelation. So the real life, everyday happenings of motherhood and the revelations that I get from those. And I am also pushing towards becoming a certified birth and bereavement doula, soon to start the postpartum part. And what else? I always get stuck on this, like, who am I? And I am a wife. I'm a mother of 2 girls, 4 and 2, and an angel baby, Justice. And what else do I do? That pretty much sums me up, I think.
Yes, it does. You're so funny. So I would love for you to take us back on your journey to motherhood and share with us your lost story.
Okay, I of course became a mother 4 years ago. I was in my 30s, and prior to becoming a mom, I had, I guess what you could say, was a little bit of a scare on if I was going to have fertility issues, because I was not really having thyroid issues, but I had this goiter, and I was totally unfamiliar with goiters and thyroids and what they do. So once my doctor found out that, noticed the goiter, rather, they went to have me do labs and check for my thyroid levels. And I, like the smart person that I am, went to Google to find out, okay, what is hyperthyroidism? What is hypothyroidism? And I saw all of the effects that it could have on women and fertility. And I lost it for a little bit, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if I had this, and what if it's already affected me and I don't know? Because it was before I got married, so I wasn't actively trying to have children at that point. And I actually had gone to the doctor when they found it, because a couple of my family members were nervous that I was going into early menopause because of some symptoms that I was having. So that's why I even went to the doctor. So for him to say, oh, I don't think that that's an issue, but I found this goiter. So it just kind of was like a roller coaster for me. So between the time that I found out and me actually getting married and us trying to conceive, or not trying to, but not trying to conceive, I would just have these faith onesies, and I would just declare that it was God's will for me to conceive, carry, and birth children into the earth. And so that was all I had to hold on to until we got married. And 3 months after we were married, I found out I was pregnant. So that was pretty quick, but we were kind of old, as we said, so we didn't have a problem with that. And 18 months after we had our first baby, we found out that we were pregnant again, and we were not trying at all with that. We're actually on birth control, and she was like, I don't care about that, I'm on my way. And so we were good, and we were gonna wait for probably another 2 years before trying again, and that was around December. So this one, we actually tried to have a baby. And then in January, we found out we were pregnant. So of course, you know, I'm thinking I've had 2 successful pregnancies with healthy babies. It's nothing. But then I started to have major anxiety. And it was unlike anything I'd ever had before. So I was giving myself no dead space. I was playing worship music all the time. I was doing my confessions. I was playing books that fed my faith on Audible. Literally, if I was doing something that didn't require me to be thinking or, you know, just actively doing something, I was playing something in my head so that I wouldn't just have these, you know, almost anxiety attacks where I just really was fearful of losing my baby. And I'd never had that before. And then couple that with just having these mishaps, I guess, with the doctor's office. I was at a new doctor's office, wasn't familiar with them or their practice. And they set my ultrasound, my first ultrasound that you go in, you know, so they can make sure that everything is okay, that first one. And it was supposed to be February like 17th. And they called me like 3-4 days before saying they needed to reschedule because the midwife wasn't going to be there. So in my mind, I'm thinking the whole thing was canceled. I wasn't aware that they still wanted me to come in for the ultrasound. So I went in for the rescheduled ultrasound and they were like, oh, your appointment was canceled. You didn't know? Well, I'm kind of here, so that means I didn't know. And they were like, you know, it's okay. But we had made it a whole thing. It was actually my baby girl's birthday. So I had my husband and my little girls. We were like, oh, we're all going to go in and we're going to look and see the baby's heartbeat and da 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 da. So when they canceled it that day, I was like, okay, this is a thing. And it made my anxiety worse. And they were like, you know, well, you can come back in tomorrow. We'll do the ultrasound. And then you'll just have to come back in to do the follow-up with the doctor. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So we go in the next day and my heart is like palpitating. The night before, I posted our pregnancy announcement onto social media because I was like, I know that I haven't been posting this out of fear. And I just had this kind of like indignation, like I'm gonna kick the devil in the teeth and I'm gonna post it. And hours later, I went in for my ultrasound appointment and they could not find my baby's heartbeat. And I was like, I really, you know, you don't want to think about it, but you have an idea that if that ever happened to you, how you think you would react. And I think I was just kind of shocked. I was looking at everything. I've seen these before. I know what it's supposed to look like. And I knew that it didn't look like what I was used to seeing. So I kind of just asked the ultrasound tech, you know, is that the baby? And her response was kind of like, it looks like the sac or something, but she didn't answer a yes. And so I knew then, yeah, this is different. This is different. So my baby didn't have a heartbeat. We met with the doctor and then she gave us the option to, of course, do the DNC or to take the medicine, go home, you know, to start the process. And I declined them both. And I did so at the time because I just felt like that wasn't my decision to make. I was like, my baby is still here. To me, that means there's still time for a miracle. So that's what I believed for almost 2 weeks, that, you know, God was gonna resurrect my baby in my womb. I was gonna go back in for this other ultrasound and everybody was just gonna be amazed. And almost 2 weeks later, I started to spot, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's not what we were praying for, but baby's still there. I'm still gonna keep believing. And then that Saturday morning, I woke up and I thought that I had a night sweat because those are not uncommon for me. And I grabbed my phone to do something to turn on the light, and I noticed that it was blood, and it was lots of it. And I was like, okay, yeah, so this is really happening. And it was like 4 a.m. So I'm sleepy, kind of out of it, and just trying to make my way to the bathroom. So my husband got up and, you know, he's helping me down the stairs to the bathroom so that he can go back up and, you know, get the bed together, all of these things. And I'm just getting ready to get in the shower. And it's not dawning on me because, you know, this is totally new for me, uncharted territory. I'm not thinking you still have to give birth to the baby. Like it was blood, but there was nothing else. And so in my mind, I'm just going to get in the shower, you know, clean myself up, and I'm going to go back to bed. And I stood in the shower, and I was probably there for about a minute, maybe two. And then I could feel the pressure, and I was like, oh, like, okay. And so I yelled for him to tell him, you know, something's about to come. And literally right there in the shower. And I was just, I think I froze. And I was about to probably scream because I'm looking at everything literally like, well, life feels like you watch life leave your body. And he's like, hey, you know, look at me. He was like, look at me. Don't worry about it. I got it. So, you know, I'm just standing in the back of the shower, eyes closed, just crying. And he's getting everything together. And I think I was just, it was just really surreal. And the next day I bled all that day, like past heavy clots. I hated going to the bathroom because every time I went, it felt like it was happening again. That's just how big they were. And I began to lose so much blood that I started to faint. So they called the ambulance, and they came to get me, took me to the emergency room in the back of the ambulance. And they checked my hemoglobin levels, and they were like, okay, if it drops to, you know, a 7 or below a 7, we're gonna need to give you a blood transfusion. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? Like, not only did I lose my baby, but I'm having to have a blood transfusion? Like, are you like, what? Like, are you saying, like, if I don't get this, like, my organs are gonna start shutting down? Like, it was crazy. So I was there, but I wasn't really there. And it kept dropping, even though, you know, they got all of the clots out, they got the bleeding to really slow down, but my levels kept dropping. So I did end up having to have a blood transfusion. And I was there for about 24 hours. And then I came home to continue with life, but life was nothing like I had known it before. It was just really different. That Saturday, after I lost the baby in the shower, before I had to go to the hospital, my oldest daughter, who's 4, was super excited about having a new baby. And she would ask me every day, Mommy, is there still a baby in your tummy? And I would be like, yes, the baby in my tummy. No, the baby has to grow, so Mommy's not going to get big right now. And that particular Saturday, she came in and she was like, Mommy, is there still a baby in your tummy? And I was like, no, there's not a baby, you know, in Mommy's tummy anymore. The baby came out. And so she took that to mean that, like, the baby was here. So she's like looking around the room like, where is it at? And I had to explain to her, you know, no, the baby went to be with Jesus. And we were eating, I think, some pita chips and some hummus. And she just kept eating. She said, oh, he went to be with Jesus? And I said, yes. She said, oh, he'll give him back. That's how Jesus works. And she just kept eating. And so I literally, from that moment, I held on to that, and I continue to hold on to that day by day. Her faith is unmatched. And so after that, on my bad days, you know, good days and the in-between days, I just keep holding on to that, you know, he'll give them back. That's how Jesus works. So that has been the bulk of what my motherhood journey has been up to this point. And I kind of, I didn't think that it would happen to me, you know, with my platform and just ministering to so many different women, believing in faith, for so many women to, you know, conceive babies and have these miracle babies. One of the aspects of motherhood that I never really touched on was loss, because, you know, I could pray for them, and, you know, I could just share with them, you know, my experiences of loss, of some type of loss, but never knowing what that loss was like. And so after it happened, I think a couple of my friends who had miscarriages before reached out to me, and all I could say to them was, you don't know until you know. It's really it's nothing that you can identify with if you've never been through it. You can, be empathetic and, give space to people and hold them close to your heart, but you don't know until you know.
Absolutely. So I would love for you to share really how this last really 6 months has been for you, as this loss was fresh. This happened in 2020 in the middle of COVID. We didn't even touch on that. You didn't even talk about that.
We were literally in the hospital as they were shutting things down, and they were kicking people's family members out of the hospitals and saying, because of this pandemic, we're not going to be able to allow visitors in. And they had given the instructions for them to kick my husband out, actually, and our nurse who was advocating for us without us even knowing what was happening. She was like, no, she's having a blood transfusion. He's been here the whole time. I'm not asking him to leave. And she's supposed to be discharged, in the next couple of hours. Anyway, I'm not asking him to leave. So, he got to stay, but literally we left from there, going to get medicine and stuff, and the stores were shutting down. Everything was dark, and that Monday, everything was shut down. So I had nowhere to run. I had nowhere to hide. I had no distractions. We were all in the house, shelter at home, and I was just here, which it turned out to be a great thing. It forced me to deal with it head on without, any distractions, but it was just loss after loss after loss after loss. It wasn't just my loss, but it was literally, you saw people dying every day. It was wild, literally. My stepmom died of like a month and some days after that, and it was just, I didn't become numb, but it was just a lot of processing happening, a lot of processing. But one of the things that happened before I actually knew that my baby didn't have a heartbeat, as I was praying, when I'm carrying my child, I always pray about the purpose of the baby that I'm carrying. And one of the things that God spoke to me was, let justice flow like a river. And at the time, I thought that I was carrying who would be CJ. CJ is the son that I saw before I had any children. And I always held on to him. So I called Reagan CJ for like 5 months before I found out she was a girl. Everybody was calling Ryan CJ, and CJ has not shown up. And so this third pregnancy, I was like, okay, I'm not planning on having any more kids. Clearly, this is him, And so when God just kept saying, let justice flow like a river, I was like, God, am I having twins? Like, what is happening here? And so losing him in the same place where I had heard that, let justice flow like a river, that was the thing that stuck with me. And so probably about a month after the loss was when you were doing the virtual doula trainings. And I had actually wanted to have a doula for my third pregnancy, because I never had one before. I had never had any complications with my pregnancies. I had never had any issues out of, the medical staff or anything like that. But I just felt like I wanted to have one. I wanted to have that experience. And as I was in the hospital, one of my sisters, who was actually a critical care nurse, who was kind of giving me step by step, this is what should be happening. This should look like this, so that I could make sure that they were handling me right while I was in the hospital. She sent me some information about a doula, and I was like, what? Like, why would you send me that? And it just would not leave me. So when I saw that you were doing the doula trainings, and I was like, wow, maybe this can be a part of Justice's Flow. And so I signed up to do that, and it has been one of the most challenging and most healing parts, I think, of this process, because it seemed as if every person who was experiencing a loss found me, because I was sharing so openly on social media. So that was kind of like my tagline. I share openly my motherhood journey, right? And that's a part of it. And I wasn't ashamed of it. I wasn't going to try and hide it because it was nothing that, I did. And so I just was kind of sharing my process, not everything, of course, but just highlighting, how I felt, what I was feeling, the revelation that I was getting from it, just all of it, just letting people know, it happens to 1 in 4. So somebody who has experienced this, and they may not be talking about it, but I want you to be aware of what it's like. I want you to see what it looks like so that you can be mindful of how you handle people who are going through this. And so I would just say, this is a part of my flow. This is a part of my flow. And so during the pandemic, I have grieved my loss, other people's losses, because I'm training to become a birth and bereavement doula, but it seemed like the bereavement part was the only thing that stuck. And I was having, people was like, oh my gosh, how did you go? How are you going through this? How are you doing this? I just lost my baby. And it was just like every time they would reach out to me, I was feeling mine all over again. It's just like, oh Lord, is this the weight that I have to carry with this now? But it's all been worth it. It has all been worth it.
Absolutely. You have definitely become a wounded healer, right? We're all still wounded, but we have the power to heal people and help people through their healing and get to a place of their healing. So I love, obviously, I didn't know that you were so fresh out of your loss. And it's so refreshing to hear you share about your experience, how it was healing to go through that bereavement training, and really how God is sending you people in this last 6 months to help you heal, but help heal others. Just look how full circle it's gone with your journey. So I would love for you to share, what do you think this next 6 months looks like, and how will you, at that year mark, when you get back to a year, next March, early April, how will you memorialize justice?
My due date actually was October 1st. And of course, that's going into Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And I am planning to do what I call Justice's Due Date, but I'm calling it a DO date. And so I'm going to ask some people to partner with me and to do some services to help raise some money, to help get some moms, some doulas who may not have the money to actually, pay for them, so that they can have the coverage and the support that they need, but also that the doulas can be taken care of, because you got to eat, right? So that is something that I am doing here at this 6-month mark. Well, it'll be a little bit over, but at this point, that's what I've been planning to do, just to celebrate, because I said, even though we didn't make it to that due date, I still want to give birth to something on that day. So that's what I'm planning to launch for that day. And coming up to March, I hadn't really thought about it. One of the things that I had to kind of fight through during these 6 months was the month days. I would never realize that it was there until it was gone, and it became a place of guilt for me. And I would be like, oh my gosh, the 14th passed, and I didn't even realize that was another month. And I just kind of had to give myself grace for that, because I was like, my baby will be with me forever. So, if I make a post about him, on the 14th of every month, or if I never utter his name again, he will literally be a part of everything that I do from here on out, because my life literally changed. The way that I do things, the way that I talk to people, handle people, love on people, it was all changed after that. So he will literally be a part of, he will flow forever, literally. I will let him flow like a river. So he'll be a part of everything. So I just had to give myself grace for that. So I hadn't even really thought of what I might do on that day, aside from it's one of my aunts, it's her birthday. So I was like, you know, I'm glad that I get to celebrate life on that day and not just the loss. But I hadn't thought of what I would do outside of me honoring his due date, and that being something that I wanted to carry on, you know, even after today, like make that kind of like an annual thing to do justice's due date, and let that be something that can help close some of these gaps that we have pertaining to Black women, and, you know, the maternal mortality rate and the injustices and stuff that we see.
Absolutely. I love that. I love having a due date, a DO date, so people can give and support and really, like you said, pour into the community, because a lot of people may not be able to afford a doula. You know, doula services need to be normalized in the Black community. So being able to do that every year as an annual nod to memorialize him, but also give back is such a great effort. And I'm so excited for you, especially since it kicks off Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness.
I know. I was like,
a way to do that. Yeah. It all worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
So, my last question to you is really, how are you surviving pregnancy loss?
Well, for the first couple months, I survived it in the garden. I planted a garden with my girls, and initially it was just, it was something to do. I didn't start out with the garden. We just had some seeds that had been here for like a year. I had gone to Target, and they had all of these like cute little kitty garden tools and seeds and stuff. And I bought a whole bunch of stuff, and we never did anything with it. It was literally sitting by our back door for like a year. And I was just like, we're stuck in the house. We have nothing to do. I know my girls are going stir crazy. I need some fresh air. Hey, let's go plant these seeds. And I had no expectation of the seeds. I just figured, you know, it'll be a fun day. We got to play in some dirt, and it just kind of is what it is. And then a couple days after, I went outside and was super shocked to see that some of the seeds had already begun to sprout. And I was like, oh, and I remember what I felt seeing that. It was just a reminder of life. And that was one of the things that God said the day that I found out that Justice didn't have a heartbeat. We were still in the doctor's office, and I was standing in the hall waiting for them to put us in another room to speak with the doctor. And I heard him say to me, there's still life there. And so that, so hard trying to recount all of this stuff the way it happens, but that was what I held on to when she asked me to do, you know, did you want to do the DNC or do you want to take the medicine? I held on to there's still life there, because I was taking that to mean, you know, oh, you know, you're going to resurrect my baby. So there's still life there. Has showed up so many different times over these last 6 months. And that was the other place that it started, out in the garden. There's still life there. And that was a constant reminder for me, just seeing those seeds, the seeds grow, and just remembering that in order for the fruit to live, the seed had to die, and to see the beautiful things that came from the seed and the fruit and how it nourished my family. And I was able to give it to other people who supported me during this time, just to say thank you. You know, I named it Justice's Garden. So we did those seeds, and then we planted a raised garden bed and put some seeds out there. Some were sentimental, like green beans, because I remember having, you know, going to pick peas and beans with my grandma as a little girl. The cucumbers, that was just, I had no reason for planting those. And we planted like every seed that was in the pack. And that was just, that was, you know, even when you don't expect the best, you can still be surprised by what happens if that's what God intends for you. Because sometimes we can get so caught up in, you know, and we believe and we think that our doubt cancels out what God is going to do. And God is like, you know, if your doubt has the ability to cancel what I'm going to do, then I'm not God. And so I had no expectation of those seeds. I didn't believe that they would produce. And yet I went outside, and every last one of them has sprouted up in that thing. I was like, you know, what I have for you is for you. And whether you believe it or not, I can prove to you who I am. And so that's what that garden kind of reminded me of. And so every day I would go out there and I would water it. And there were so many lessons I wrote. I would write them down in my journal, and I called it You Grow Girl. And so every day, whatever revelation he would give to me out there, I would write it down. I would share it on social media sometimes. And I was just like, wow. And then in these last couple of weeks, I haven't gone out as much. And I start to feel bad, like, dang, I'm just letting my little garden go to waste. And then I realized that spoke more to my healing than it did of me being negligent of the garden, because I had to go out every day before, because I needed to meet God there. I needed, some source of motivation or inspiration or healing. So I had to go out there because I knew there would be something for me. And so when I didn't feel the need to go out there every day, or didn't, I was okay with not going out there every day, I knew that I was really healing. And so that has been the biggest part of how I've made it through these six months.
I don't know about y'all, but y'all need to pause and rewind all that, because she just dropped a word in there about planting seeds that you did not know that were going to manifest a harvest. And I think that really what I just took away from what you said is just that sometimes, because this is a new hobby for you, right? You weren't a gardener beforehand, were you, Shanicka? That she literally turned to the arts, actually going out and doing something productive. And God revealed so much to you during that time. And it's so awesome that it was in a seed that you could actually see sprout and grow into a fruit, and you could actually bear the fruit, like I want nothing but God, Shanicka.
So it was so amazing. It was so amazing. I had one of my cousins, and she knows me really, really well. And she texted me out of the blue one day and was like, give me some verbiage for what, your plants and the garden means to you. And I just told her, I have gone to the hospital to give birth to children. So, birthing a child out, I know what that's like. But at that point, you still bring something back home. I was like, I've never had to, birth a child that you don't have to take care of. I was like, so having to go out and take care of something every day, like really nurture it and pour into it, I was like, it's healing. And she was like, oh, okay. She was like, I didn't know if I should be worried about you, or, if you weren't grieving properly. She was like, but now I know that this is, a part of it. I was like, absolutely. I was like, it helps me to be able to care for something. Yes, I still have the girls, but, I've been caring for them. I was like, to have something new to care for, it's really helping me during this process. So to be able to do that, and to, like you say, see the seed fall to the ground and then sprout and then bear fruit and all of that. So to just that constant reminder of there's still life there. It literally is amazing. I couldn't have known to do that on my own. It was literally, it was God leading me to do that.
Absolutely, it was. And for it to happen at such a time as this, like, if it didn't all happen this time right now during this pandemic where we are shut in a house and can't go out, you wouldn't have been able to see those fruit bear over this last 6 months. So you all need to go back and listen to that word, because she just blessed me. She just blessed me so good. So Shanicka, I would love for you to drop your socials. Where can we connect with you after this goes live?
After this goes live, you can connect with me. I'm on Facebook at Shanicka Vail House. I am on Instagram at Shanicka Vail House, also My Transparent Moments, and also Birthing Moments. That is the new one that I am doing with all of the doula work. And I have a website, www.shanickavailhouse.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It's been a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do, all of the work that you continue to do that is blessing so many of us that are going through one of the most painful things ever in life, and to be able to use that pain and connect it with a passion to pursue purpose. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.